Hey, good morning, everybody. Man, welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head, by the way. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson. We created this show for you because we want everybody with an invisible condition to know 100% that they have a voice, they have a community, and they are not alone. And that is what we are here for. That's what we do. I have a question for you. Anybody out there struggle with long-term headaches or migraines? I did. I had a migraine. I had migraines for like a whole year. Ouch. It's terrible. Our guest today, Lori Hammond, suffered from a headache for 3 years, after which she was diagnosed with Idiopathic Intracranial Hypertension, IIH, that's easier to say, otherwise known as Pseudo Tumor Cerebri. After having brain surgery, of all things, her life turned to normal, and she established a business as a professional hypnotist. That's right, you heard me right. Hypnotist. Pretty awesome. 3 years ago, Lori's symptoms came back, and she had a second brain surgery. She still struggles with the imbalance and the double vision and stuff like that, but she shows how gratitude has been her best coping mechanism since surgery, and I absolutely love that, because why not? Hope and gratitude is where it's at, man. So let's welcome Lori to the show. Hello, Lori.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you for having me.
Morning.
Good morning.
Man, this is so cool. I'm very glad you're here. I'm so happy to talk to you again. So I've had headaches in the past, but they were hard and they hurt and they suck. But 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years. That's insane. Constant headaches for 3 years.
Yeah, 24/7, waking, sleeping, you name it.
Were they migraines? Were they just what did they figure out?
So at first it was high pressure headaches, which I didn't understand that when they first started, but it was the effect of having an overabundance of spinal fluid inside my brain.
Ooh.
So it was kind of, the best way to describe it is like the worst sinus headache you've ever had. It's just like, it just feels like your head is about to explode all the time.
Yes.
And if I moved down to pick something up, which I almost never did. I had little kids at the time, and they knew if mom dropped something, we're going to go pick it up for her because she can't bend over. And then towards the end, they put me on an experimental drug. Well, I guess it's not super experimental, and they still use it, called Diamox, which helps relieve water pressure from people. And the idea is that sometimes it can relieve that internal pressure. It didn't do anything for me, so I stopped it cold turkey. I didn't know better at the time. I now know that's a good
idea for turbo medications. Yeah, we don't.
Yeah. But when I stopped that medication, I started getting migraines. So I had migraine headaches and high pressure headaches at the same time, and it was a disaster. It was painful.
Sounds excruciating. So they, like, how did you do that? I mean, so you had the kids, right? You had the kids to help.
Yeah.
But like, how did you deal with that? Like, that's a lot. That's a long time. So
my kids were all school age, so it was very tough. And I took Excedrin tension headache. Like, I experimented with all different kind of drugs, and I'm not really a big drug person. I don't like taking medicine, but I tried different medicines to see if anything would help. Tension headache, for some reason, it was the magical cocktail that kind of just quieted the pain a little bit. It definitely didn't stop it, like it was always there, but it quieted it a little bit. So sometimes the pain was like manageable, where I could feel it. I couldn't, I still couldn't bend over, but I could still function in life. And sometimes it was so excruciating that if I turned my head, I would throw up. And like, I couldn't get out of bed. It was just absolutely debilitating. And I never knew from one day to the next what it was going to be. But my life really deteriorated. I was actually homeschooling my kids at the time.
Man.
And I went over to all the neighbors' houses when I was feeling good one day and knocked on their door and said, hey, if you see my kids playing, just so you know, they do have a mom that loves them. And we were still able to make it work, but it was very, very hard.
I didn't just tie his time to a stake in the yard and tell them to fend for themselves, right? I swear I'm in there. I'm not one of those moms. Yeah.
Yeah.
Geez. So, God, that must have been terrible. So okay, so you're having these headaches. You obviously want to get to the bottom of what the heck is going on. How was the diagnosis process? Were doctors helpful? Were they tell you it was all in your head?
Yeah. That was really hard. When I look back, I think, and I don't know, it's been all this time and I still don't know for sure, but I think what started it is we all went for a family vacation to Disney World in Florida. And there was a ride there called Mission Space. And I think that ride is still there. And it works by like spinning people around fast that it simulates the G-forces of takeoff. And I was so excited about this ride because I'm afraid of roller coasters, but I'm fine with spinny rides. And so we got on this ride and it just like spins you so hard and you don't realize you're being spun. You don't realize that's what's happening.
Wow.
And the very next day I was standing at the bottom of the bed in our rental house where we were staying. And I just had this feeling of like not feeling the floor under my feet. It was just a feeling of disimbalance, not really like dizziness isn't the right word, but kind of like dizziness.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's weird. And it started getting worse and worse. And then I started getting these pounding headaches where all I could do is hold my head in my hands and essentially like flinch from the pain. And that's when I went to see a neurosurgeon. And the neurosurgeon, honestly, on the very first visit, he threw out that diagnosis. He said, this could be IIH, but we don't know. We have to do all these tests. The way they test it is with a spinal tap. So they can't tell by scans. They can't tell by MRIs or CT scans if it's something in the brain because the ventricles don't actually swell. But they can tell if there's a buildup of pressure in the spinal tap. So I had 2 different spinal taps. And since I had never had a baseline spinal tap, like I'd never had one before, they didn't have anything to compare it to. So they just had to compare it to the norm, but every body is different.
Oh my God.
So my spinal tap fluids were very, they didn't really indicate anything. They were really pretty normal. So they waited and waited and waited. And that's why I dealt with this headache for 3 years before getting the surgery. Finally, one day I went to the emergency room because I was I couldn't stop throwing up from the pain. Yeah. And my neurosurgeon said, we're just going to put a shunt in there and see if it helps. And he didn't have any idea if it would. And it changed my life.
What? So, okay, let me make sure I hear you right because I don't know a lot of people that have shunts that don't have, I mean, there's certain conditions that shunts are a thing.
Yeah.
But this is not normally one of them, is it? Is this?
So my understanding is that nowadays this condition isn't really treated with shunts, but back then, 18 years ago, they would use shunts sometimes for people if they didn't respond to medication like I didn't. But yeah, it's a pretty rare condition to start with, and then it's pretty unusual to have a shunt if you do have the condition.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So just to throw this out there to people that are watching, anybody else dealt with this? Any IIH, pseudo tumor, anybody dealt with a like real or pseudo anything like that? We would love to hear from you during the show because it would be amazing to connect with you and see what your experience was. But good Lord, Lori, that's insane. So did doctors give you sort of any explanation about why they're were they stumped too? Like, yeah.
So it's most common with women. I believe it usually starts in the 30s, and I was in my late 20s.
Okay.
So that was kind of didn't match. And it's really common in very obese women. Usually it's women who are at least 100 pounds overweight. And I've never been that overweight. I'm kind of chubby right now. I was kind of chubby when this started, but I've never been obese. And so that they were just stunned. And that's part of the reason it took so long to get the diagnosis is I didn't fit the mold. It's almost always women that are very obese have it. And when they lose weight, it actually makes their symptoms better.
But you didn't have that option because you didn't have the weight to lose.
Right.
Oh, well, okay. So that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, as much sense as it can make. So wow. And the shunt was the answer. Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, I woke up from surgery, and it's a pretty quick routine surgery. I woke up from surgery and felt normal for the first time in 3 years. And I was just like, everything just felt normal. And I was almost scared. I was so scared it would come back. But they kept me overnight. Usually it's an outpatient surgery. They send you home afterwards.
Yeah.
They kept me overnight because usually they have to siphon the fluid to get the shunt started, to get the liquid, the fluid in there. Mine came spurting out across the room when they drilled the hole in my skull. So he's like, I know this is going to help you. Going in, he said, I'm not sure this is going to help you. And then coming out, the surgeon is standing at the foot of my bed. He said, I know this is going to help you, and we're going to keep you overnight to make sure you're okay.
Holy cow. Well, you know what? When that kind of thing, like, that's movie stuff right there.
Yeah.
When that, right? When the surgeon, and they do something and then stuff starts going everywhere. That's, oh my goodness. Like that would have been something to behold. Huh? You like, did you get that on video? I'd kind of like to see that. Or maybe not. I don't know if how squeamish you are with that kind of stuff.
I would totally want to see that. Yeah.
I would totally want to watch that. Yeah. There was a brain surgery they did for me a few years ago, and they said, yeah, we could have done that with a local. Because I've had a shunt since I was 2 weeks old. And the last brain surgery I had was in October of 2021. So mine was for hydrocephalus, but I've had many surgeries to replace them and different things over the years. But one of them, he said, yeah, we could have done that revision with a local if you wanted. I said, nah, my luck, I'd sneeze and you'd screw I'd.
Yes.
So I'm totally, like, I probably wanted to see stuff too, but I'm glad I was asleep for everything. So that would be terrible. Yeah. So. But man, that's fascinating. I'm still kind of like trying to wrap my brain around the shunt thing for and my brain is reeling right now. Like, oh, I wonder if this would work. I wonder if that would work. But how did this impact your family and your career? I know you said it was hard, and your kids were amazing helpful and like everything. How did that go?
Yeah, it's interesting because I still think about this, and I look at my girls and wonder, how much of this had an impact on them. In some ways, I think it brought our family closer because we all had to kind of band together to make life work.
Yeah.
The thing that I hate is that Mom was like the victim for a while, and I don't like being the victim. I don't like having attention on me. But for my kids to see me and realize like there was nothing I could do so often with this. And that was really hard in hindsight. And I wonder how much it impacted them. They're all healthy, well-rounded, awesome adults now.
Nice.
But at the time I felt very guilty for not being able to put all my attention on them because some of my attention was just on like how I'm going to make it through today.
Yeah, but I mean, I get it. I totally get it. I've been there many times myself over the years, and I've learned that sometimes I get it. I felt guilty too, but you can't really feel guilty, really. I mean, because if you're out for the count, if you're down for the count, then that affects them too. So if you don't take the time to take care of yourself, then what's that doing for them too? You can't. I mean, you have to. You got to get them. Yeah.
I had no control over it. So it was just a matter of acceptance. And that was something that I learned. I feel like I really grew and learned as a human through that time, but it was hard.
Yeah, you kind of do. You do a little, I mean, I honestly, with my condition, it's not a one and done type of thing. So every time you get that really bad headache, or every time you get that feeling that reminds you of what happened right before a surgery before, you kind of go, oh, crap, here we go again, and then sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. But, you always have that in the back of your head, like what's going to happen next,
Yeah.
So
How many surgeries have you had?
Probably, oh gosh, without having the list in front of me, probably 15 or 16, but only 7 of them were brain surgeries. So
okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So only 7 brain surgeries. Nobody.
Only 7.
Yeah. Four of them have been since 2014. It's been an interesting last few years, I'll tell you.
Wow.
But by the grace of God, I'm still here, and doctors did a good job, and so here we go. Which is part of the reason I'm doing this, because I'm one of the few I'm finding out that have never had to take a regular medication, and that have fared fairly well. Yeah, in 46 years of being on this planet, I've never had to take a regular medication, and I've come out of this pretty well. So I feel like it's my mission to help people to get the word out about what they're doing. So that's part of the reason we're here. So it's pretty awesome. But yeah, so I'm glad you and you made it out pretty well too. I mean, I'm so excited that this has come around the way it has. But when you were going through all that stuff, I mean, for 3 years, were people kind of were they understanding? Like people out there, like when they'd see you, like, did you go out much? Did you go to the store? Did you do normal stuff?
Yeah.
Or were you just cooped up in your house all the time?
I did, like, I went to the store and did regular errands. I'm kind of an introvert in the first place, so I wasn't super active. But I did go and knock on all the neighbors' houses. I knocked on all their doors and said, hey, just so you know, if you see my kids out running around, this is why. And my kids weren't like hooligans or anything, but they were just out and about more often than usual. And I just wanted them to know they have parents. And the neighbors were very kind and very understanding. I also was active in my church at that time. And the people in the church, some of them were super understanding and really like sought to understand more. And some people just kind of like, they didn't get it, so they didn't interact.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. I mean, it's easier just to, arm's length than to try to understand. I mean, the people you're close with are going to want to understand and help you. But and
it was invisible in that I didn't have any outward symptoms. The only outward symptom that people saw was kind of a pinched look on my face from the pain. And I didn't even realize I was doing that until afterwards when in the emergency room, they would give me some kind of a medication to stop the pain. And they would say, I can tell that's kicking in because you have a less pinched look on your face. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't want to know that I had that look on my face. But that's really the only outward symptom of this diagnosis. Yeah,
no, I get it. It's so crazy. You and I relate on so many things. It's starting to, it's crazy. I can't believe how many, I mean, I remember we talked, a while ago before, talking about doing this, but I didn't remember all of this. So this is crazy. This is awesome. Yeah. So it's nice to meet people that you relate with, that understand, the craziness. So, but, well, I'll tell you what, Lori, time flies when you're having fun. We're already at a commercial. So we're going to take a break here. So I'm going to take you off real quick, and then we'll come right back. So thank you so much. Hold on one second. All right, guys, this is amazing. I am so excited that Lori is here. So, and it's only going to get better. We're going to talk about, so there was the brain surgery, but there were 2 of them. We haven't talked about the second one. We're going to do that in the next segment. So stick around. We'll see you soon.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Russell. I'm the host of TechnologyTuesday.com. You can find us on the Conscious Business TV network every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the latest resources to help you make more money in your business. Join us on E360 TV. Come on.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. This has been amazing. Lori, welcome back. We're back.
Thank you.
Breaks are, kind of nice to take a breather, but we gotta come back and keep going with the story here. So we talked about in the first segment it was finding out all this and diagnosis and all the craziness, and then it's all in your head. You don't have anything. Now they know what's going on. But so you had a brain surgery, but now you've had a second one. Now you had to have a second one. First of all, what was like between surgeries? Like, did you have relief or?
I did. I had complete relief. The moment I woke up from surgery, I felt 100% normal again.
Amazing.
And I felt that way all the way through until I started having trouble again about 3 years ago. So for 15 years, I felt really normal. You couldn't tell anything was wrong with me. I couldn't tell anything was wrong with me. And I hate saying wrong with me. Nothing was wrong with me, but it was very different. But I got my life back. And it's interesting. One of the side effects of this illness for me was a divorce. And in hindsight, what I think happened, and I don't usually talk about this, I'm not super outspoken about this, but I was married for 15 years and it was a pretty unhappy marriage. And when I got this illness and then had the illness resolved and I felt better, I thought, I want to live my life to the fullest. I want to have a good life. And I actually left that marriage as a result of having my life back. And that's one of the really positive things that came from it. So I've been divorced now for 16 years, but it was interesting. I felt a lot of forward momentum in the interim, and then about 3 years ago, I just started having weird that same kind of dizzy feeling, and just different strange symptoms. It's interesting because none of the symptoms were headache, and I still haven't had. I think like once I've had that headache that I had before. Yeah. So headache hasn't been a big part of it, but in the few months leading up to my surgery is when things started getting more persistent. I started getting a little bit louder because what would happen is I would go in to see neurologists. They would take pictures of the shunt with the CT scanner, MRI, and say, well, we can't really see anything. We're not going to do anything about it. It's invisible, so they don't really do anything for you. And so finally my symptoms were getting so intense and so persistent that they started paying attention. And I found a neurosurgeon who was willing to operate again. And when I went into surgery, I was hopeful that I would wake up feeling better. And I didn't. This time I didn't. In some ways, I've almost felt worse. I have these ridiculous glasses that I wear most of the time. I didn't want to wear them on the show, but they fuzz out one eye because I see double, and I'm actually seeing double right now. It's not terrible, and I don't have to read anything or walk.
Right.
But this is one aspect that makes it not invisible. It almost makes me invisible because it makes people not want to look at me when they see it. They're like, something's weird with that girl, and they kind of stay away from me.
Because you can tell the lenses are different. You can physically tell that.
And you can't fully see my eye through the one that's occluded, but it helps a great deal. It helps me be able to function. And then my balance has been super off. Those are the two main symptoms is the double vision and the balance. And one seems to like make the other one worse. There have been times since my surgery. So I had my surgery in November of last year.
Oh, wow.
So it's been about 9 months.
Wow.
And there have been times when my balance has been so bad that I've had to walk with a walker or a cane. And they also put me into like a rehab for a week where they did like intensive physical therapy with me to teach me how to walk with a walker or a cane. I didn't do very well.
You have to be taught.
But,
You have to learn how to walk with a walker or a cane.
well,
Is it
it was more the cane that they were teaching me how to like coordinate the cane. Like you coordinate the cane with a certain foot, and
Oh, I see. Okay.
it was trickier than I expected it to be. But
Yeah.
lots of that sort of thing. And I don't know that it really helped a great deal, but my symptoms have slowly but surely been getting better and better. So now I never use a cane or a walker, but I do still have these ridiculous glasses that I wear most of the time. And
Well, I don't have in fact, I was just at my, he's a chiropractic neurologist, actually, of all things, right? Who's thought of such a thing? But he's amazing. He's the only one in the state, actually. We could talk about it later, but he had some glasses like that, and different ones had different sections of the lens precluded and it was not the whole lens. It was just parts of the field of vision, and it was fascinating. So he had me try some, and it was amazing. It didn't really help me, but I could see how it would be helpful for some people. So
yeah, I'll have to get his name from you.
Yeah, totally. He's incredible. You're gonna love him. But how, just out of curiosity, how common is IIH?
It's very rare. I don't remember the statistics off the top of my head, but it's very, very rare. I think I've met one other person with it, and most people who have it have vision problems, but different kind of vision problems where there's pressure on the optic nerve. And I'm very grateful that I have never had that. So my double vision, I'm almost starting to think it might be something totally separate from the IIH. I don't know, but my vision is better than 20/20. Another thing that happened just before I started having symptoms is that I had LASIK eye surgery. So my eyes were corrected and they were 20/15, and they're still better than 20/20. And there have been times when I've wondered if something with that surgery sparked this, but I think it was that ride. And I could be wrong. It might be either. But
I mean, you know what? Sometimes those rides, when they're really spinning like that, even if you perceive that it's not really that bad, sometimes your body knows different. And so it's possible. I mean, you'll never know. It doesn't matter now, you just kind of have to go with what you got. But I get it, though. You want to get to the bottom of it. I know. Yeah. I know. But maybe if you go on the ride backwards, it'll correct it, right?
Did it the other way.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's like I used to work at a school, and they would say the kid, you'd watch these little kindergartners, and they'd be spinning around, then I'd say, spin the other way, even yourself out, I don't think that actually works, but it was sound.
I love it.
Anyway, so do you have any like lifestyle things that impact the thing with the glasses and the headaches and all that stuff? Like, is there any diet, exercise, sleep? Do you notice that kind of stuff impacting it?
Yeah. So, before I had the first surgery, I tried everything and I didn't really notice anything making a difference. I tried like chiropractic. I tried everything.
Yep.
And this time I haven't noticed a lot that helps, but diet and exercise do make a huge difference. So I go for a long walk every morning as soon as I wake up while the sun, this is a Tim Ferriss thing. He talks about the importance of getting sunlight or not Tim Ferriss, Andrew Huberman, the importance of getting sunlight in your eyes at the certain hours of the day. And so that seems to really help me. And I have recently started eating just like a pure ketogenic diet. And I know that's kind of controversial, but I learned so much about the science behind how ketosis can impact the brain specifically that I wanted to just experiment and see how it would work. And it's working really well for me. I can definitely tell a difference in my energy levels. I wear this ridiculous watch most of the time that monitors my sleep and my sleep cycles and that sort of thing. And my sleep cycles have improved. Like I'm getting more REM sleep. I'm sleeping more deeply at night. And I feel a little bit more energy during the day, because that's another of the big side effects, is just feeling very low energy, very lethargic, and very weak.
Yeah. No, that could be a thing. So when so walks, is that your main exercise, or do you go to the gym, or do you what else, is there anything else that you do, or is the balance an issue for that?
Yeah, it's walks right now. And the reason is, so I am living with my kids. I hate even saying that out loud, but when my symptoms got really intense and I was falling often, they didn't want me, like I had stairs in my house. They didn't want me going up and down the stairs. They're taking really good care of me, and they insisted that I come and stay with them. And so I have 3 daughters, and I rotate between their houses.
Yeah.
And so I haven't found, the biggest reason I haven't been lifting weights. I really enjoy lifting weights. The biggest reason I haven't been is just because I haven't found a routine or a system, but I can walk at all 3 of their houses. And so that's something I do.
Nice. Well, I might have something to throw out there for you later too about that too. So it's just, we'll talk later, but
okay.
because I'm all about solutions, man. I don't like, I don't like talking about everything that's wrong and then leaving it there. I can't do that. It doesn't.
I love that.
It doesn't sit well with me. If I find something that's something that can help, I'm gonna offer it. So we'll chat later about that. Remind me about that. But is there so IIH? So that you have like 20. You said 2015 vision. So that
I have really good vision. Yes.
So IIH didn't really impact that. Does that, because sometimes that impacts your vision, doesn't it? Is that
it does. It often impacts the vision, and that's one. There are little clues that almost make me think there might be something totally different going on. The brain is such uncharted territory. I'm sure you know that. That who knows what's really happening, if it really even is IIH. But my vision, if I look through one eye at a time, my vision is better than 20/20. But I see everything is kind of like this. So I see 2 of everything.
Yeah.
And it's like worse the lower I look, and better the higher I look. It's really strange. So it's not, they can't make me prism glasses because it's so irregular.
That's what I was just going to ask, because that's what I have. These have prism in them. And it helps me a lot, but for different things. But that's what I was going to ask about that. But I guess that doesn't really do as much for you, right? So
they've tested me for it a couple times, and what the doctor says is the way your eyes move, all we can do with a prism is make it so your double vision is over here instead of right here.
I don't think that would help. That doesn't sound. That sounds worse almost.
I think so too.
Oh my gosh. So is there any other like coexisting conditions that have gone with this, or is it mostly? I mean, not that that's not enough, but anything that you've noticed that's kind of like come along for the ride?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, I've been super healthy outside of this. I feel very blessed. I have great genetics, and this isn't something that's hereditary. So I feel very, very healthy outside of this, which isn't to say that I haven't felt incredibly sorry for myself, especially the past few months since my surgery. It's really been a battle to stay positive and to keep my chin up when the surgery didn't help this time like it did last time.
Man, I'm telling you, every time we approach a subject, I realize how much similarity there is between our stories, because same thing. Back in 2013-14, I had 2 neurosurgeries and 1 abdominal surgery because of the hydrocephalus, and something a couple therapies like got rid of all the symptoms after effects and stuff. And so when I started having those same after effects after a more recent surgery, I went right back to those because I thought, okay, those will work. Nothing has worked. So I totally get it. The brain is a very fickle animal. It does not like to be poked around with. And if you do, you don't know what the response is going to be every time. It's different every time, right? The first time it helped. And the second time it kind of went, yeah, that's cute, right? So I know, I totally relate. I don't understand either, but all you can do is manage it. And I mean, launch and adjust, right? Just adaptability is huge, right? Like you have to, as if, going through what you've already gone through without all of this with the kids and the divorce and everything. I mean, adaptability has got to be a thing for you.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, something's not going the way you think it should, then what can we adjust?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, well, I'll tell you what. I was going to ask you one more question, but we are so close to another break that I'm going to ask you after the break. But this next segment is my favorite because we're going to talk about hope, because that is the most important thing when you're going through anything. If you don't have hope, you're dead in the water already. So, I will be right back with you, Lori. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, here we go. We're going to go to one more break here in just a second, and then we will we'll talk about hope. Can't wait. Everybody, this has been amazing. All right, Lori. This is cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. For listeners who may also deal with IIH, if you were to have somebody in front of you right now that's saying, I just got diagnosed, I just had, this is a thing, I don't know what to do, I'm a little freaked out, what would you tell them? What tips would you give them? Like, what would you tell them?
Yeah. I think one of the first things that I would want them to understand is that you've got to take it one moment at a time. If you think, how long is this going to last? How long am I going to be dealing with this? It becomes too discouraging because we never know. Like, this is the kind of thing that could, the symptoms could ease up at any time, depending on what kind of medication or interventions you're dealing with. So it's to take it one day at a time and just to experiment. Like, don't be afraid to experiment with different things. For me, a lot of the traditional things that generally work with IIH did not help me, but other things helped, like that Excedrin tension headache was my savior. And and I'm not a medication person.
Right.
So yeah, it's really that. It would be I would tell them to let other people know what they're going through, to be really verbal about it so that other people understand what's going on, and just to seek help and to be kind to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. Don't beat yourself up, man. You did not do this to yourself.
Yeah.
That's the problem with that's a real struggle with especially invisible stuff, because you feel like it's, there's some days, come on, be honest. Let's be honest with each other here. Sometimes you kind of go, well, was that really in my head or did I actually feel that? Because it's not visible, Ugh, yeah, no, I get it. So how do you personally find hope on those days that are extra challenging?
Yeah. So a big part of it for me has been just taking that one moment at a time, looking at how I feel right now and not thinking about how I felt yesterday or how I think I might feel tomorrow, but just being present. I love to read. I'm a really big reader. And one of the books recently that has helped me so much, it's kind of outside the box, it's called The Tools by Phil Stutz. And I think Barry Michaels is the other author.
Okay.
And it gives 5 little tools, and they're very aligned with hypnosis because they're just like kind of like mini meditations that you can do in just a few seconds to help you adjust. For me, it's to help me adjust my attitude, or to help me have the stick-to-itiveness to keep going in my business, even though it's like I don't know what's going to happen with my business with all this stuff. So
Yeah.
it's been reading a lot. Um, I have an amazing support system. My family is an amazing support system, but I also worry about getting on their nerves. I really worry about being a pain to them and, being in their space. So I just have a lot of open communication. Helps a lot.
That's huge. Yeah. Well, and it's so important to have, we live in Colorado Springs, and there's so much military here, and I sympathize. Not sympathize. I don't sympathize. I've never been in the military. What's the word? I'm not thinking of the right word. But that is a community that doesn't always have family around them, right? So they have to kind of just suck it up and figure it out, right? So to have, and we have support. I have support system around. You have support system around you. That is huge, and not everybody has that. So but sometimes it's easy to almost take that for granted, but
For sure.
but we can't, because it's so huge and so beneficial. So so what's your favorite way to share hope with others that you see?
So my favorite way to share hope is gratitude, and we can always find something to be grateful for. I'm going to get emotional. But I know for me, just, seeing people who are so much worse off than me, there are people who can't see at all. There are people who can't walk at all. There are people who don't have family. I have so much to be grateful for. And every time I find myself like getting caught in a rut of feeling sorry for myself, which definitely does happen, I find a way to get out of that rut by looking for things to be grateful for. And by noticing how good I do feel right now. Like I feel like crap and I feel dizzy and I feel weak, but you know what? I can go for a walk in the morning. I can go and prepare my own lunch in the afternoon. There's lots of things that I can do. And just one of the things with gratitude is finding little things to be grateful for works just as well, maybe even better than the big things. So tiny little things, like I have a comfortable bed that I get to sleep in at night. Little things like that can be so helpful.
That's amazing. Yeah, and it's true. It's true. That's a huge part of it, and realizing that those are in your life, right? That you don't lose sight of that, because sometimes in the throes of everything that can go wrong, it's easy to forget that stuff. So
yeah,
there was a comment that somebody left. I'm just going to throw this up here. I don't do this very often, but I can't help myself here. I wanted you to see. I don't know if you know that person, but I couldn't ignore that one. I was like, oh, that's
Oh,
that's
that's so
awesome.
nice. I know
So,
there's a couple people that know me watching, so thank you
yep,
whoever said that.
there's a couple people, and then I think you know these guys.
Oh, thank you guys. Yeah.
So I
Oh my
love it.
gosh.
That's part of the fun with this, because they
Yeah.
throw that stuff out there because they want to be encouraging too. So I mean,
Yeah.
I think we're wired like that. We want to help. People want to help. They just want to know
Yeah.
how.
And
Honestly.
that's one of the things I have to be so grateful for is my online community. I have met so many people, and there are people who will poo-poo the online, but I have met so many people. I know Dolane is watching, Vicky is watching, and they're like, these are people who I've connected with, and I feel like they're family, even though one lives in Canada, one lives in the UK, and I've never met them in person. We've like developed these beautiful relationships, and having those in my life as I go through this has made it honestly so much easier to go through it this second time, even though the surgery was less successful than the first time when I really kept myself isolated more than I do now.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it's nice. It's more important when it doesn't go the way you think it should, right? And I mean, I totally get. I feel the same way. There's a few people. I mean, everybody in our in our Facebook group and page and all the social media and stuff that we have. All of them are amazing, and I love hearing from all of them. But there's a few in particular that I hear from more often than not, and those are the ones that you're like, oh man, you almost expect, you're like, oh, you know what? I bet this person's going to comment on this. I bet this is what they'll say, and you get to know them a little, even though you've never met them in person. I can't wait to meet them in person. I would love to just do like a celebrity Facebook group person tour or something,
Yes.
hug all these people that have been so supportive online. So yeah. Wouldn't that be fun just to go like knock on their door one day and be like, hey.
Yes, that would be so fun.
So anyway, I know that's probably not something that we'll do, but it's fun to think about. But so how can people connect with you if they have questions? I mean, I'm sure there's people that are going to watch this and go, she's doing awesome. I want to know what she's doing. How do they contact you?
Yeah, the best way to get in touch with me is just Lori at trancypants.com, and that's TRANCY pants.com. That's my email address, and I look at that every day. So that's the best way.
Okay, so I have to ask, what? Trancy
Yes.
pants?
Trancy pants. So it's so funny because when I first started my business, I knew the value of using your own name and your URL.
Yeah.
But there is some other Lori Hammond out there that has stolen LoriHammond.com. If you're listening, I have a bone to pick with you.
I want it back.
She doesn't use it, but the LoriHammond.com was taken. So I would probably choose something different today. Something that was a little bit more, like a little bit less confusing, but I thought it was so clever back then and so fun, and I've enjoyed having it. But yeah, when I decided to become a hypnotist, so this was after the first surgery and before the second surgery.
Yeah.
And I've always struggled with depression. And one of the things that has helped my depression the most has been the ketogenic diet, which I've done in the past, which this isn't a plug for keto. I know it works well for some people and not well for some people.
Totally.
But I was really struggling with depression, and I was just struggling with a lot of different things. And I had just started listening to podcasts. Podcasts were brand new. This is several years ago.
Yeah.
And I stumbled on this podcast where Mike Mandel and Chris Thompson were talking about hypnosis. And I'm like, oh, hypnosis. Like, this is, for one thing, like the religion that I grew up in was like, you're going to go straight to hell if you practice hypnosis.
Oh.
And then on the other side is just a deep skepticism or a belief that it doesn't really work. And so I didn't think of myself as hypnotizable, but I started listening to that podcast and was so intrigued, and just like implementing some of the little tips that they gave on that podcast made such a difference for me that I studied with them a few years ago and I was a hairstylist. It's really interesting. I've been looking at your hair because I actually had a client who had hydrocephalus as a baby, and I cut his hair, and he had really fine hair like yours. And I remember like I had to be really creative with his hair because his skull like showed the side effects of having all those surgeries as an infant. And so your hair reminds me of his. But I was a hairstylist and decided to become a hypnotist because it changed my life radically. It helped me step out of depression. It helped me step out of a lot of those really disabling things that I had been dealing with for so long.
That's amazing. So the last question I want to ask you is, given everything that you've been through, is there anything about the challenges over the years that you're thankful for?
Oh, that's so tricky because I look back and think, if only I didn't get on that ride, like if only, whatever it is that caused this, if only I didn't experience that. And then there's a part of me that knows like I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for all of these challenges. Yeah. And I think that going through challenges helps you relate to other people who are in challenges in a unique way. Like we have so much more compassion. We have so much more understanding for people who are going through hard things. It gets us out of our bubble. So I'm going to say this out loud, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's been very hard. I've really hated a lot of it at the time that I was going through it, but I know I wouldn't be who I am or where I am today if not for those challenges. So I'm grateful for them.
I get it. I totally get it. I love that because it's the same thing. You look back, you never know until you look back. It's always hindsight, right?
Yeah.
So and you look back and go, oh man, if I hadn't gone through that, then I wouldn't have met that person, which wouldn't have led me to that experience or that other person or this business or whatever. So it's so crazy because you're going through it. And you're like, Urgh. But man, that's so cool. Well, and even just the things that you and I have in common, which I never would have thought, and you don't know until you explore that. So, well, geez, thank you. This is so cool. I loved this. This has been so fun, and I'm so thankful that you were here, and I'm so grateful that we found each other and were able to set this up. So thank you, Lori, for being part of this and being on the show and being so real.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm really honored to be here. I'm so glad we found each other. We kind of found each other by accident, and I'm so glad that we did. And one of the things we have in common is that we both live in the same state, which might be unusual for you and your guest, but I'm very grateful to be here.
I'm so glad to know you, and we will definitely be in touch later. Maybe we can find a way to do this again sometime for another show. We'll see. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Man, I love these kind of shows. It's so fun. When you meet somebody that you have something in common with like that, or you connect with, I just love it. That's honestly, selfishly, that's kind of fun for me on this. So I'm so glad we did this. And thank you for everybody for watching and for being here. If you know anybody that would like to be a guest, there was a QR code after our first break. You can go and check it out. And anybody that has a company that that maybe it resonated with you, that you'd want to connect with us and do something with us, I would love to talk to you. Join us for the next show on Tuesday, July 11th. Dr. Pauline Dillard. She's a marriage counselor. She's an amazing marriage counselor who also struggles with chronic back pain. Join us. She has an incredible story. You're going to love her. We love her. She's awesome. She has a special place in our heart, and I can't wait for you to hear from her. So we will look forward to seeing you on the next show. And Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.